Welcome back, everyone, to another coffee chat series. Unfortunately, Lindsay won't be joining us today, so I'll be your host for the session. If you are new here, my name is Fernanda Landigrafi. I'm a senior analyst here at PCMI, and we hold these chats once a month. Typically is on the first Monday of the month, but we had to reschedule this one a little bit. So I hope everybody still can join us. So we hold these sessions just to have a space where people from the industry can share mutual learning and discuss some trends in the industry. So we really encourage you to ask questions, to make some comments. This is not a typical webinar. Of course, we have our guest speaker. However, we really encourage you to jump in, ask questions, comments, use the chat, because the more you put in, the more you get out of these sessions, okay? So just to start, I will just go through a little bit of guidelines just to ensure we have a successful meetings. So first of all, we would love you to have your cameras open, your mics open. Just ask questions, comments, use the chat. But also keep in mind that we publish these materials in our YouTube channel. So just mind your comments as you would in any in-person event, okay? So good. I'm really excited to introduce our guest speaker of today, which is Augusto Tosin. Augusto, welcome, and thank you again for joining us today. Augusto is the Latin America Commercial Head at PayFuture, and Augusto will be talking to us today about iGaming market in Brazil, which I think it will be a really interesting topic since it's growing a lot. So Augusto will go through it, how it works, the payment methods, the regulations, and what's coming next. So Augusto, I will leave the stage with you. Feel free to talk a little bit more about yourself, about PayFuture, and of course about iGaming market in Brazil.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Fernanda, for the introduction. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been as a listener, right, and participate in this coffee chats for a while. I do admit that I missed some because it was too busy, and the last ones, it's the past 3 months I'm not here. But anyway, it's a total pleasure, and of course, to talk with the payment colleagues here, right. So everything is going to be directed to this niche and talk about more the payments, but talk more about this industry, right? That is growing a lot in. It's not only Brazil, right? We're going to focus in Brazil, but this is a worldwide effect. These online casinos that's we're trying to understand it and how to adapt it and etc. So of course we're going to focus in Brazil, but this is a global uh, phenomenon, right? That we are seeing. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we
Mhm.
can. Mhm.
Yeah. Just quick intro. I've been working with eBanks, Stone, WordPay, and now with PayFuture for the past like 7, 8 years. So focus in payments, and the recent focus has been in iGaming. Been publishing a lot, studying a lot of this market, of course, relating to payments, but this uh, everything that involves this market here in Brazil, but also in Argentina, emerging markets mainly. Focus on this industry now, right? And I joke a bit, I don't know, because when I was at low risk side, right, and I thought about the high risk processors like a dark side of the force a bit, but now that I see it, you have like good providers and merchants in both in high risk and low risk, and bad as well in low risk, right, and high risk. So it's a lot of technology, a lot of things going on, and uh, when I switch to this side, it's very exciting. Things are is faster, right? Is very exciting this industry. But in of course, if you want to ask a question, make a comment, contribute, just raise your hand and just hop in, right? But anyway, what's iGaming, right? What actually is iGaming that we're speaking? Of course, they did like some marketing work here and put a nicer word to the casinos and etc. iPhone, iGaming, right? It's kind of this, but in general in the market, what is the core components for iGaming is the sports betting, which you have like a ledge in some sports event, live sports event, and the casino, online casino, everything online, right? The iGaming is this chunk of this business, right? Some people include also esports. So you have some betting and etc. in esports, in fantasy games. Fantasy games is really big. For example, in the United States for golf, for NFL and etc. It's not really in Brazil. It's just one or two players that do is for soccer, right? For football, but in DraftKings and etc. in US is huge, right? Not yet in Brazil, but fantasy games still in iGaming, right? And what is the excluded forms for that's not included in iGaming, right? The lottery usually is like government, state owned, right? Brick and mortar casino is different, is another legislation, another market, and etc. So pretty much it. Where when I talk here about Brazil and etc., I'm not talking about lotteries. I'm not talking about the brick and mortar casino, which is kind of surging up. Is another law that they're trying to build, like another bill they want to pass, but it's not what I'm talking here, right? And now it's huge, right? iGaming in Brazil, and why? What led to this huge market, right? So what happened is in 2018, the any kind of luck and gambling was forbidden in Brazil. Dot. So in 2018, they changed this law, so now it's allowed, right? And people can bet, right? And they created some mechanisms to these operators to send money overseas. So is for since 2018 is allowed but not regulated. So it's pretty much it, right? Allowed it but not regulated, right? And when these guys starts coming to Brazil, of course, they in Brazil we have already a culture of betting in the state lottery, right? It's from our parents, our grandparents. Is really common. So they just brought a new part of a game, a more technological, but is already inside the culture of the country, the betting itself. Of course, they target a new public in general, which is more tech savvy, etc. And then they connect it to the soccer, which is our main sport, right, by far. So they do this and connect to the soccer teams. They sponsor the soccer leagues and etc. And then this just got huge, right? Because Brazilians already love football and soccer, and then they put like this betting plus entertainment scenario. Then it's just going huge, right? And of course, the Brazil mobile tech adoption. So more people with mobile phones in their hands and also with the internet connection. And this is really important because I need to recheck the numbers and etc. But more than 80-90% of this market is run through mobile. So that's the combo that helped the iGaming really surge in Brazil. But now coming to our payments field, right? Also picks were really like, if I'm not mistaken, start to ramping up in 2019. And until there, to place a bet, you need to do a bank transfer, a debit card, and etc. And also, it's really important to make withdrawals, right? In this market, it's a payout driven. So Pix is just what make this explode, right? So why Pix is the fuel for this growth, right? You have
Augusto, can I
instant
just
transaction.
interrupt you a little bit just
Sure.
so I can really understand about like what it that you mentioned that betting is allowed but not regulated. So what that
Exactly.
does that mean in practice? So the companies cannot be in Brazil, like companies can be out of Brazil, but people can bet. How does it work? Like the merchants needs to be out and then they use usually a PSP or a payment provider to collect the money? How does it work?
I'm gonna arrive there. I have
Okay, you'll
a
get
slide
there.
just for
Okay,
that.
okay, good.
All right. But why Pix is the fuel for this growth, right? instant transactions, real-time transactions. So I don't know if you know it, but in the soccer game, you cannot place like bets on who's gonna win or who's gonna lose. In the middle of the game, you can place bet live, right? So if it takes like TED, which is the bank transfer, old bank transfer in Brazil, 30 minutes to your money to be available, the match is already over, right? You don't have these dynamics. And then picks came, and in this instant. So this is really important for this industry. And then the payouts. In Brazil, as you guys, I imagine you know, is was not worldwide, right? Everybody focused on pay-ins because it's the biggest volumes. Everybody wants to pay, but then we have this gig economy when people need to get paid, right? Influencers, payrolls, deal, the big Payoneer, and etc. And then Pix is the perfect match for a good and fast payout because when I place a bet and I win, I want this money ASAP on my account. Otherwise, I'm gonna, man, this guy is stealing my money. I place a bet, I won. I want this money now on my bank account, right? So Pix is just instant, and of course, there's a whole chain, right? It's not actually is instant, but the rails companies are trying to improve to make it faster. So I know merchants they have targets to a Pix be available on the account of the user, and this how they route transactions through providers. So that you have 15 seconds for the whole flow to work, and if the other one is 16 seconds, he's going to switch to the fastest one because this is so important. They spend so much money on acquiring users, and if the user doesn't have this money, then he's probably going to switch platforms, right? Merchants. And of course, Pix has a widespread adoption. Uh, Even people with low scorage, credit scorage, is they're going to access, right? Now, what Fernanda asked me, this exactly. So, what's the money flow currently? Currently, as I mean, today is gonna is happening this way, right? So, no local entities. Brazilian users are allowed to bet since 2018, right? But companies cannot be based in Brazil. Why is that? Because the Brazilian government didn't understand, so they cannot allow Brazilian companies. That's their idea, right? Their argument to be here. And what is this? They don't even know. So you can bet Brazilians, but it needs to be overseas, right? So what's the current financial flow, right? So you have the payment processor, which is processing basically Pix. 95% of the volumes are through Pix. There are payment facilitators, payment institutions, some banks as well. They are doing this. And then you need to send the money abroad because it's full cross-border volumes, right? And then you need to have FX bank or a broker company and etc. So all the monies, and they do like this: pay-ins minus payouts, and they send the money, the rest overseas. But even this, they need to send the money and then return. You cannot just do this netting. Some might differ, but you cannot do this. So you need to send everything outside and then come back, right? Cost is a lot. It's costly, right? You have the Pix processing fee and also the FX fee for these merchants, right? But they don't pay any taxes. They don't pay anything currently, right? But now things are changing. These volumes are getting huge and etc. So this is the law, right? Uh, 14790, which is going to be implemented on in a couple of months, right? 1st of January 2025. And this is changing everything. So now the operators is completely the opposite. They must be locally in Brazil. They cannot be overseas. So the Brazilian government can control more, to have more control and etc. Right? Uh, they have a lot of steps of QIC for the users, of course, underage, but more deep, like liveness proof and etc. It's
I,
huge, the requirements, right?
I have a question on that.
And sure,
Um, if
go ahead.
Brazil is saying you can't bet in companies that are foreign to Brazil, how would they go about stopping that?
Good question. It's not easy, right? Even China cannot stop, and they stop like Google and and WhatsApp, right? But then they can stop the betting company. But what they are using is central bank. Only payment institutions can process the payments now. No payment facilitators. You need to be licensed. So if I catch you, payment processor, I will shut down your license. First, control, right? Second, marketing. So if you don't have a license, you cannot go to soccer teams, you cannot go to TV, you cannot go to radio. They're counting on these two because only blocking IPs and etc. is pretty tough, man. They all try to block like in the technology, the URL is gonna be mandatory to the domain to be .bet.br. It's gonna be mandatory to try to make it easier, but I know for a fact it's not possible to control IPs. So central bank payment providers and publicity, they'll try to
I
do
mean,
like this.
if you're able to bet internally within Brazil, then why would you ever go elsewhere anyway? But if there is a desire to go elsewhere because something's not allowed within Brazil, then people will find a way. And I was just seeing if
Exactly,
they
man.
had things in place. And there's a limit, as you say, there's a limited amount that they can do. But the fact that they're looking at it, what they can do, is a good thing. So
Exactly. So what you need to do like is to do a friendly regulation, but they forbidden a certain types of games, right? This is a concern for this illegal route, right? Also, they have taxes for VIP players, people that have payouts more than 2,000 BRL, which is where these companies make money. The VIP players will be taxed. The user will be taxed. So we're gonna see next year how we're gonna be in like actually work this, and how much the illegal gambling, which is every market that's regulated has a share, was going to be, right?
yeah, so I mean, I'm sure they've thought of this anyway, but one way of doing it. So a question that it comes to, if they're going to be regulating the gambling industry, the gaming industry, will they then enforce that any winnings are paid out? Because that's always a risk. If you're like, hey, if I win, do I actually get the payment? And if the Brazilian government is regulating it, then they can enforce that. That becomes a nice selling point. But it only if they are going to enforce
security.
the payouts.
Perfect. Yeah, security. If you bet in a regulated house, you're sure that you're gonna have your payments. So that's exactly perfect point. Should be a selling point, right? But yeah, it costs $1 million per year. It's not for any kind of medium merchant. You need to be big at least to have $1 million to pay only for license. And you have KYC mandatory. It's kind of steep. And also 18% on the GGR. GGR is a iGaming metric. It's called gross gaming revenue, gross gambling revenue, right? So basically the revenue, they paying 18% of taxes. So, but they talked a lot in making this regulation with the merchants, and the merchants are kind of okay with that because 70 merchants did apply for the license, so it can be considered a success. Of course, there was 2,000 websites operating, 70 applied, but it's the biggest one. So let's see. Some of them pull it out because exactly what Nikki said. Man, I'm gonna pay $1 million per year, and you cannot guarantee that the illegal is not showing up. So Betway, it's a big immersion globally. They drop out from Brazil. Dafabet was a big player globally. They drop out from Brazil. So, and now, and like I said, only sure.
Hey, hey Augusto, how you doing? Tudo bem? Quick question for you. Obviously, the regulation that's coming in on the 1st of January is going to be absolutely 180 degrees different from what the regulation has been until the 31st of December 2024. So is there going to be a grace period where an international operator that's been servicing the Brazilian market cross-border will have a period of time to establish an entity in Brazil to become local in Brazil, or is it a very hard cutoff on the 1st of January?
They're doing it right now, Lynn. So they started this transitional period on October 1st. So they're giving this time, but then the final cutoff is January 1st, but it's already happening. They can still send the money overseas, but for example, only payment institutions regulated can process now. It was not mandatory this. For example, Nuvei, a big player on this market, they just bought it. And this last time, a payment license from a bank, right? They pay a lot of money. And this license the price just increased it a lot because you didn't have this need. And then they just bought this license for like huge amount of money to keep operating after October 1st.
Okay,
So it's already happening. De nada. So more for the payments industry, right? So what's going to be allowed? This is for the regulation, right? After the regulation, what's going to be allowed and restricted payment methods? So permitted methods is going to be PIX, of course, is the big one. TED, which is allowed but nobody uses. Debit cards, it's allowed, and prepaid cards, right? This is what's going to be allowed. What is totally prohibited is cash, any cash payments like a boleto or etc. Crypto assets. This is big overseas, right? Some countries, they have a lot of crypto, pay by crypto, but in Brazil, for now, no. Credit cards, you cannot pay by credit cards. This is for the Brazilian government, is to not incentivize debt per betting. So kind of makes sense, right? And so the whole focus on prepay methods. You cannot acquire any debt to bet, right? And what about volumes? What's going on, right? This is 2023 volumes. This is hard to estimate. You can do like an estimation by the FX banks, the money that we're sending overseas, and also the marketing that this guy's investing in. But in 2023 is around like 170 billion BRL. And for this year, probably 240 billion BRL through this year in betting, right? Of course, then you split through pay-ins and payouts, and then you see how important these payouts for in this industry, right? Of course, the houses always wins, so it's less payouts than pay-ins, man. But it's a huge volume, so it needs to be a stable payouts rail, right, for this. And if I'm not mistaken, I can double check, and PCMI probably have this data. This is already bigger than all the e-commerce, digital e-commerce volume in Brazil. It's already surpassed it. If it's not equal, it's already surpassed it to all the online shopping, cross-border or not, Mercado Libre, etc. It's already bigger.
Augusto, can I just ask you a question? I don't know if you're going to throw it in your next slides, but I just want to understand, because we had, as Lenny asked, like we had some scenario where cross-border, like we were operating cross-border. So we have merchants outside Brazil. They have a payment provider in Brazil, and now things are changing and they need to be local. So what are these like payments provider doing? Like how are they behaving themselves with that? Is there any strategic that they're following? How are they working with the new regulation?
Yeah. The thing is, for payment providers, this has been a nightmare, right? Because they have two lines of revenue, which is PIX processing, and then you have the FX spread. But now it doesn't exist, the FX spread anymore. So maybe 30% of their revenue, 30, 35, depending on how they do the deals, is gone. So, and it gets worse, because when it was gray, was authorized but not regulated, there was some payment providers that was specialized on this industry, right? They would take the risk, but you don't have like big commercial banks processing this. They don't want to touch it. Now they will. And can you imagine like a big state bank like Banco do Brasil, or they can do the PIX for free, right? And this is the only revenue that a PSP will have is the PIX. And if the bank can do it for free, but because they want to offer like float investment returns, etc., or bank accounts, so it is a tough, right? So they are trying to maybe put KYC as a product together, or yeah, it's been difficult, right, to differentiate, right? Maybe offer more countries, right? Nuvei, they give this speech. If you go with me, you don't need to make like a one connection for Brazil, one for Argentina, one for Canada, etc. It's one API for every country. But if they have only Brazil and etc., it's kind of difficult to. But Pix looks like a commodity and the payouts, but there's a lot of technology validation to increase the conversion rates. For these guys, conversion rates, of course, for all merchants, right, is important. So you can add this technology as well to differentiate for others, right? And the banks, they're dropping out this volume. It's they win so much money, but for example, Bex Bank or Topazio, which is from eBanks, right? They already dropped this volume, and it's not a reality anymore for them.
Yeah, and just you mentioned other countries in Latin America. How is the regulation in the countries? I don't know if you have like any examples, or because you said like you can also use the speech of serving other countries. So how is the market in other Latin American countries?
Okay. So, like the biggest ones are Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Argentina for last. Peru is in the same movement as Brazil, getting regulated right now. Pay the license is more like it's cheaper, the license and etc. is more, but the market is smaller, right? Colombia, the same, getting regulated, but it's kind of monopoly. So you have like two big players. They have kind of states, betting, housing, etc. So they just control 80% of the market. But let's say these guys are looking because in this market you have this fight, right, with local merchants and overseas merchants. The local ones, they have the leverage, they have the language, they know the culture. It's easier for them to market. But these outside ones, they have tons of years of experience with the platforms and etc. So it's always like this battle of the local contenders and this giant tycoons. Like in Brazil, the biggest ones is Bet365, UK one, and Betano Kaizen Gaming, which is from Greece. And then you got Sports the Sorte, which was bought now, but anyway, it was a Brazilian-born merchant, right? So it's the same happened in these countries, and but it's getting regulated. The concerns are the same. How they gonna control it? The illegal gambling and Argentina is kind of a mess because they did state like this is a topic, right, as well. Do you do state license or you do government federal license? In Brazil, we went for federal license, but there's some states that are trying to do it and they're selling license. This is we can be for 2 hours here, but Rio de Janeiro, they're selling license as well. It's pretty cheaper, but we were gonna be valid or not, we don't know. But this kind of mess in Argentina is all state, but in the end they cannot control it, right? So it's kind of a big illegal gambling there. When you say illegal, right, it's not a local license. These guys are licensed somewhere. Curacao, everybody's licensed, right? But it's not a local license, right? That's the thing. But in general, it's a very like it looks like the Brazilian cross-border e-commerce for in 2020, 2018, right? Everybody wants to go to Latam, right? And I was speaking to Fernanda. Now you're focused a lot on APAC, right? But for gambling, iGaming, everybody's looking to Latam because we have mobile, we have the synergy, we have the soccer, and etc. And of course, US is more mature in UK and some places of Europe, so you have smaller margins, big giant guys, very complex because it's state regulations. And now they want to explore Brazil, just like was the cross-border digital goods in 2020, right? Brazil and Latam in general. So it's big. You see the investments and the fairs they're doing. It's a lot of focus on Latam. How much time do you guys? Do you know? I'm gonna finish this, and then I thought it was gonna be more, and then we can answer questions and chat about through.
Yeah, we have some questions in the chat, but just go through it and people can jump in.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the last slide.
Yeah.
Anyway. But there's a lot to talk. We can talk more. So now it's kind of what Fernanda asked. How can I differentiate myself in payments, right? What can I bring to these guys? Because everything is fixed, right? So this is my opinion, right? What can we do payments providers to offer to these merchants, right? And the thing is, now they have a big they have with the regulation the margins reduced, right? They have less margins, so they cannot afford lose clients. So in this industry, when they go regulated, it's about retention. they spend a lot. Like their cost of acquisition in Brazil is around 500 to 1,000 BRL for a cost of acquire a client, right? Which is huge. So they cannot afford to lose this client. So how can payment methods help to retain these customers? So there think is going to be a lot of loyalty and cash back to maintain them in the platform, and they don't change to another one. Maybe some wallets. I brought here PicPay and Mercado Pago because they bring security for the website. The users know these brands and they have a huge user base. So imagine you do like a campaign with all the base of PicPay or Mercado Pago, right? This would be huge, right? In the end, it's going to be Pix payments through the backend, right? But how they can bring this to their environment. And I don't know about Mercado Pago. Mercado Pago doesn't directly process iGaming, right? But they do through PSPs. They're doing. But PicPay, I think they're looking and creating a whole business unit for this vertical, right? Investments and cash flow service. Now the companies are in Brazil, so their money is here. So it's going to be a whole financial service like investments, cash flow, returns, and etc. That's why I bought Banco do Brasil, because they are a financial institution, right? And they can bring this all the services to this merchants, payroll. They need to have like a customer support center in Brazil. So there's a lot of service that you can explore. More in the banking, less in payment processing as well. But let's see. That's the thing that I brought today. But yeah, of course, I did like a summary. There's so much in this, and we can spend like the whole day talking about the state license is a mess as well. But if you have any questions, just go ahead.
Thanks, Augusto. That was really great. I don't know if people want to jump in and ask some questions. Maybe, I don't know, Celso or Hugo, if you want to. No?
No, I just want to clarify that here, I believe that with the new FX regulation that we have established in the past year, all the banks can offer a non-resident account to repatriate these cash flows involved of these companies that open this license here in Brazil. So I believe that it's in line that Augusto already told for us, but I think that the opportunity here is, for example, to the companies choose the best moment to repatriate their funds and shows the better FX rate. This is not possible today in the EFX market because, for example, they have to do the quotation every day and they have to accept the quotation instead of this product of non-resident account that all the banks can offer for this type of customers.
Exactly. They use this product, and in the end, they don't want their money in Brazil, right? These guys are overseas, so they're gonna pay the taxes, do everything they need to do, and there's gonna be still a volume they're gonna send because also their cost base is overseas, right? The platforms, the technology, the marketing. This market spends like a lot of money in affiliates, right? So these guys are overseas as well, in general. But yeah, they can use this non-resident account setup, which is used for some banks were offering, right? But I don't know now because the change in the regulation. But they need to send the money overseas still, but not all the volumes.
Yes, yes. I believe that if the non-resident account, they can maintain the money here in Brazil because they can net the balance without paying IOF, for example. Because if they have the similar flows, the inbound and outbound, they can maintain the money here in Brazil. And for example, this cashing flow can use for the cash out flow and they can maintain here.
Exactly. They don't need to
IOF.
send every time and come in.
Yes, yes. Perfect.
Yes, yes. But if you have any more questions, but I think to wrap it up, right? if you guys are in payment industry, it's something that, like in the past, right, it looks like the dark side of the force, but it's something inevitable that you need to at least understand it to worldwide, because like I said, it just surpasses the whole digital e-commerce volume in Brazil. So to understand how the companies are positioning themselves and etc. Because if you work in a payment company that's doing only low risk, they might tomorrow just start a business unit that I know a lot of companies, right? We never touch this high risk volume, and there they are in the fair with their booth selling the payment methods because it's something that it's happening, right? So it's a market that you need to be watching and what payment methods and is going and etc.
Yes. Thank you. If we don't have any other questions, Augusto, thank you very much. I think it was really great, very interesting. There's a lot going on. So yeah, and as you said, it's not like the dark force anymore. So we need to kind of learn and understand and see it as an opportunity. So let me just to wrap up. We have Augusto's email here, so feel free to reach him. And also, we'll see each other next month. So thank you very much.
See you guys. I drop my
see you.
LinkedIn there. I post regularly news about iGaming and emerging markets, not only payments, but in general. So feel free to follow and reach out if you need anything. Just have a chat, etc. Thanks, Fernando, for the invite and PCMI as well.
Thank you.